to a dose of positivity, and especially welcome to those that have come back for a second or maybe even a third dose. I'm Margaret Greenberg, and I'm an executive coach and the co-author with Senya Myman of this book, Profit from the Positive, published by McGraw-Hill, which has now been turned into a certificate program. And the person that's going to be leading us today is actually Dr. Terri Malcolm, who is one of our certified practitioners. And Terri is actually a physician coach, and she works with other physicians to really maximize their leadership and their well-being. And what Terri's going to be sharing with us today is a tool that she uses primarily with physicians and other healthcare workers, but it applies to actually all of us. So you're in for a real treat. I'd like to introduce you to Mia Chernick, who is an associate of the Greenberg Group. And Mia's going to help us navigate today and just give us a couple of quick tips to get us going.
Great, thanks, Margaret. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from. We're excited to have you back or here for your first dose of positivity. Just a couple logistics from my end. Most of you have become familiar with the chat box, but we will be continuing to use that throughout our time here today. So we will have some questions and we'll ask you to respond back in that chat box. But any other questions, concerns, or comments that you have throughout our session, feel free to put them in there, and we will definitely circle back and try to answer them to the best of our ability. And we will have some Q&A at the end of our time today. So any questions that go unanswered or miscellaneous thoughts, we'll be able to tackle towards the end, time permitting. Also wanted to mention, I will be recording this session and sending out the slides so that you will have access to these resources after our session. So look forward to some positivity with you this morning, afternoon, evening, and Margaret, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mia. Let's just do a quick, I call it a centering exercise that we start every webinar that we do with a centering exercise. And you might be familiar with this term called absent presence, where we are physically present, and in this case, virtually present, but we may be mentally absent. And we see that a lot when we might be on our phones, right? And our children or our spouse or friend or partner might ask us a question, right? And we're like half listening. So that's why we ask you to turn on your videos so that you're not tempted to be catching up on email and doing other things. So let's center ourselves for a moment. Close your eyes if you'd like. Make sure your feet are firmly planted on the floor. And I'd like you to begin by just focusing on your breath, breathing in and breathing out. And I'm going to share with you a quick breathing exercise. It's called the 4-7-8, where you're going to breathe in on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to hold it for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you're going to slowly release on 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go ahead and practice that, just 2 rounds yourself, and then open your eyes, and I'm going to turn it over to Terri.
All right, well, I hope everybody had a chance to take some nice deep breaths in and out and to center themselves and just settle into your seat, and let's enjoy these next few minutes together in our dose of positivity. So thank you so much for joining Margaret, Mia, and me. We are the M Cubed group today for a dose of positivity. And the CALM method is a framework, and it's a practice that, as Margaret mentioned earlier, I initially created this for my physician clients to help them in response to the COVID-19 and to use this as a tool to really navigate through this very tumultuous terrain within the healthcare industry. But when I kind of took a step away from just the healthcare area and looked at this through a different lens outside of the physician bubble, I think that calm can really be a universal tool, because the topsy-turviness of circumstances that we experiences within healthcare, we experience those within all of the industries that we're in. So so calm in the chaos can be applicable to whatever background or industry that you might be in. It's really a practice, and it's a reliable way to coach awareness for leaders in the moment. So on the next slide, as you see this image, and I share with you the words of stress or anxiety or disconnection or burnout. When you hear those words, what kinds of thoughts start to come to mind for you? And do you feel like in moments of stress or anxiety that the wave is crashing in? And that wave can be composed of tides of time constraints, invasion of your home office now by your partner or by your spouse or by your kids or by your pets. Sometimes it's been the social distancing restrictions that we're all under, or it might even be the lifting of the social distancing restrictions that you're experiencing within your area. The uncertainty of the economic landscape, and then everything that's associated with this global pandemic. Are you experiencing those moments of stress or anxiety or just disconnection throughout the day? Because our day-to-day life is changing by the moment. It's perpetually evolving. The question is really, how do we practice a calmer approach? How do we respond to life's tidal wave? And the metaphor that really comes to mind for me is touching the wall. And I'll share with you briefly that my children are all swimmers. They all swim competitively. And in swimming, we talk about touching the wall, going in hard, going in strong, touching with a lot of, force and not an easy, soft touch. And I was looking back through my phone a few weeks ago because I needed to just kind of clean things out. And I came across a video of our oldest son, who was about 6 or maybe 7 at the time, and he was just starting to swim. And it was a video of him in one of his very first races. And watching him swim, you just saw him going as fast as he could. Those arms were spinning and those legs were kicking, and he was just trying to touch the wall. There was no strategy. There was no method to the madness. It was just mad, crazy swimming. It was just typical 6, 7-year-old kid just trying to swim as fast as he possibly could. And I think sometimes when those moments of stress and anxiety come upon us, we just try to go as fast as we can, and maybe there's no strategy to our approach. And so I'm hoping that calm will be an approach for you when those moments of stress or disconnection or burnout present. So when you hear calm, and instinctively when we see somebody that's stressed out, or when we see somebody that's really upset, or they just don't seem like themselves, they're just very frazzled, what naturally comes to mind for us, of course, is we want to help. We want to be of service. We want to make them feel better. And we may reflexively say, just calm down, just settle down, just kind of chill out. And that, unfortunately, while well-intentioned, has the exact opposite effect of really calming anybody down. It just turns them into, red, anger, fury. They can just be absolutely livid by the fact that we've said, calm down. And, so I can tell you that in the history of people calming down, never has anyone actually calmed down just from being told to calm down. So when we say calm down, this can mean something very different than someone thinking that we are not validating their emotions in the moment. And the reason why we can get so angry or so furious, or it amplifies our emotions in the time, is that it really invalidates our emotions. It minimizes the importance of our perspective, and it dismisses that whatever we're saying and whatever we might be getting worked up about in that moment is nothing, and we're just overreacting. So it really trivializes, and it ignores and it dismisses our internal experiences. And there are not good or bad emotions. There are simply emotions. And we do need that space to be able to experience those. So calming down and the method of Calm Down, it emphasizes effectively managing our emotions rather than trying to control someone. So Calm, the tagline is really coaching awareness for leaders in the moment so that we don't have to completely tip over the edge and we don't have to become so race-induced, so race-filled. It really can be a prescriptive framework for practicing mindfulness in order to improve our resilience and our well-being. And the research on mindfulness is really exponential. There is so much research out there to really demonstrate the benefits of taking a moment to pause. That research has really identified multiple benefits of mindfulness because it shows the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the cognitive benefits of applying mindfulness to our routine. And those moments can be very small, just as Margaret opened us up earlier with 30 seconds of taking some very deep breaths. And I know when I first started to practice mindfulness and I first started to research this, I thought, I don't have time for an hour to be mindful throughout my day. I don't have time to spend an hour practicing yoga. I would love to, but I just don't see how I can fit that in. But mindfulness can be in very small doses. It can be for 60 seconds. It can be scattered throughout your day. It can be in the morning, in the evening. It can be at dawn or at dusk. And it doesn't have to be time consuming or a total time suck. And so that centering technique that we did at the very beginning is the first step of Calm. That C stands for centering technique. And my suggestion is that you take 1 minute just to center yourself, and you take a moment to pause, to step away from the multitasking, to step away from the direct impact of whatever it is that's going on around you, and to start breathing with a rhythmic pattern, because it really does help us settle into the space. And Margaret taught me the 4-7-8 breathing technique by Dr. Andrew Weil, and this is one suggestion for you. There's so many other breathing techniques or centering techniques that you can use. And Dr. Weil has a lot of research around his technique that it does help us and prime us for what lies ahead and really can reduce anxiety, can control or reduce our anger responses. And there's even anecdotal evidence that it can help someone to fall asleep or to manage their cravings, which sometimes, the pantry is calling my name and the cookies definitely want me to come and want me to eat one more than I need to eat. So this is one thing that can help you to center when there's things that are calling you and pulling your attention away from a different approach for the day. So the next step, the next letter of Calm is A. And that's about allowing the leader to really share what is top of mind. And so when you see somebody that is frazzled or you see somebody that is stressed and you ask them to, step away with you for a minute and let's do this breathing exercise, then after they've been able to settle, you really want to give them an opportunity to share what's going on. What's the impact that everything is having on them right now? Give them an opportunity to describe their situation. And you really turn your attention to them. So on the next slide, it's about letting go of your agenda of trying to fix or to solve. So I know instinctively when we see someone that is upset or that's angry, we want to help them, we want to make it better. But in coaching, we talk about holding the space. And when you hold the space, it's being with someone without judgment. It's putting your needs or your opinions aside and allowing somebody to just be. So it's validating whatever it is that they're experiencing in that moment. And so a suggested opener could just be, you're dealing with a challenging situation, and I'm here to listen to how you're being impacted. So let's just kind of take a moment as we've gone through the first 2 steps of that. And I want you to even reflect upon what you are noticing about yourself or thinking about right now. As you went through the centering technique at the beginning of our call and the beginning of our time together, how is settling into the space? How did the breathing exercise, how did that impact you? And if you could just type that into your chat box,
Terri, as we wait for people to put their responses in the chat box, I'll just say I always start with a centering exercise, of course, to help prime people to get present. But for selfish reasons, I also do it so I get present to be able to lead or co-lead a webinar. So I do it as much for myself as I do for participants.
Yes.
Awesome. So we're starting to have our responses come in. So Andrew said, created calmness and ability to focus and not think about what else is on his plate. Megan is ready to use step C&A with her associate after this call.
Right. That's awesome. Megan's 50% ready. All right. We'll get you 100% ready, Megan.
Seamus feeling centered and focused almost immediately. Gracie in a similar space, feel relaxed and ready to listen.
That's great.
Some additional comments around a pause to collect thoughts, clarity on next steps, relaxation, keep focus and stay in the moment.
That's great. That's great. So thank you everybody for sharing your immediate responses to that. And I think it really goes to show what an impact just a few seconds can have in your life. And, you know, Gracie, I'm going to use you as a segue for this next slide, the level of calm, because you focused in on it perfectly about now it's about listening. So now it's really donating our ears and our hearts to the other person without wanting anything in return. It's listening with empathy, and that's what listening with empathy means. It's listening for the other person's emotional state, listening for the intonation of their voice, the whisper, the disappointment, the anger, the anxiety. Notice maybe how their words just might trail off and how they communicate with you non-verbally, what they are saying with their bodies, but they're not actually saying with their words. And so listening with empathy is really about devoting our mental energy to another person's thoughts and their ideas and suspending our thoughts in order to perceive another person's point of view. You know, one of my favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou, and she says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And when you listen with empathy, it really affords a great deal of respect to the speaker because they feel validated in that moment. Even if what you say doesn't come out perfectly and you stumble and you stutter and you stick your foot in your mouth, and I do it all of the time. But the person on the receiving end will respond to the fact that you were there for them, because it really gives them a gift, and it gives them a gift of satisfaction of being heard and of feeling validated. And it allows for the presence and the clarity of mind where they can now actually receive some feedback or receive some assistance. So you can even ask, like, what's your biggest challenge right now? Or what do you hope will change for you as we explore something today? So the last step is M. And in calm, you really want to motivate the individual to see the possibilities that exist. Because now that they're in a more centered space where they can actually be in tune with what is going on, what can happen now as a result of the anger and the fury and just the chaos still might be there, but it's not as amplified as it once was. And so you can help them explore an insight that maybe you heard during the conversation. And they can move from a place of I can't to I can. Because as we explore the insight, we can really open the door to the possibility. Our words and our thoughts are very powerful. When we say and when we think that we cannot, and we do not. And so it really becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But now there's maybe another perspective to explore. So what can you do? And from where you are now, what's one step that you could really feel good about? And so as I close with this calm metaphor, I'll revisit my son, my oldest son, and stories about him swimming. And he's now 12, and his swimming has advanced quite a bit from when he was 6 or 7 in the story I told you about earlier in the recreational level. And he recently competed in, I live here in Arizona. He recently competed in the Arizona State Swimming Championship. And his coach put him in a long distance race, and that is not his favorite by any means. And he was really stressed out about it because he'd only swum the race one time before. And just before the race, things were just really kind of chaotic. It wasn't as smooth as it normally is regarding lane assignments and the flow of the meet. And I could tell that he was just really getting stressed out. He was just really, really worked up. And there wasn't even enough time for me to try to give him a pep talk. And so he had to just jump in, and I just said, do your best, we're here for you. And on one end of the lane was my husband with the lap counter. I'm on the other end of the lane with my stopwatches and my pencil and my clipboard so I can record Nathaniel as he's touching the wall every time. And then on the side of the pool was his coach. And his coach said, I am going to give him signals, and I'm going to give the two of you signals to let him know what he should do throughout this entire race. And as Nathaniel would turn to the side and take a breath, he could see his coach, who's running up and down the side of the pool, instructing him and letting him know, your pace is steady, keep your pace, stay solid, or pick up your pace. And then my husband could give him a signal with the lap counter, pick up your pace, or hold steady, keep going. And when my son touched the wall, and he was breathing so hard because he had put everything he had into that race, and he did a phenomenal job. I couldn't have been more proud of him. I can't even remember how many seconds he dropped off his time and placed much higher than we had even anticipated that he would. You could tell the sense of calmness that was within him because there was a strategy. There was a strategy for how to approach that chaos and to approach that anxiety and that stress that he had in the moment. And those were skills that he didn't have before when he was 6 or 7 years old, and not that he necessarily should have them at that time, but those were skills that he had developed, that even though there was all of this anxiety and all of this stress around him and his nervousness about how can I perform, he was strategic in how he handled it. And he swam one of the best races that he had. So it's not about looking back, because you can't go back, but it's really about looking forward and recognizing what can you do with the skills that you have now. So as you share calm with somebody else, then, maybe you can just share with them, instead of just saying, calm down, but when you say calm down, I learned a framework that could be helpful to you right now, and would you like to try it? So thank you to everybody for your attention and for listening. And if you have any questions, I welcome them. And I think, Mia, you have a couple of questions even that we could share in the chat box.
Yes, I do. So if you all, I know we're close to time, but if you do have a moment to take a quick second and think about either a way that you feel you could have used this calm model in the past, or maybe a way that you can change one small thing today that you can do to implement this model in your life. We'd love to hear it.
And Mia, while we wait for people to put those their responses in the chat box, let's just show them a couple other things. If they want another free dose of positivity, this is where they go to just reserve their spot, just like they did today. And if they'd like to stay connected with Terri and you and me, this is how you can stay connected with us. And I know Mia's going to be sending out the slides, so you don't worry, you don't have to furiously write all this down or take a screenshot. She's going to be sending those out later this afternoon along with the recording. So let's see, did we get anything in the chat box or any questions yet?
Not yet, Margaret. All right, here we go. Gracie, in what way could she have used the model talking to her husband about challenges during this time?
Yeah.
It's a tough time, right? And being able to communicate and remain calm is important. Megan could have used calm when dealing with the 20% pay decrease that shook her company.
Oh, Gracie, I love your, is there a visual to show kids? I love that. I had not specifically come up with anything for the kids. I hope maybe the little cartoon characters will resonate with the kids in this slide deck, but I do really think that this is universal for all industries, and I think even in all ages, because I know while the tagline might say leaders, I really do think that we're all leaders. So whether you have a team of 100 or a team of 10, or you have a team of 1, we really are leaders. And so you're a leader for your children, or if you're a teacher, you're a leader to your students, and can really teach the kids to be leaders themselves and how they can help their fellow classmates or their friends and their buddies when they see that they're really upset and that they're worked up. How can they just be there to help their friends react in a much calmer way to the stress that they're experiencing? I love that for the kids.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because I'm always looking for really concrete strategies and steps that they can follow. And like you're saying, they can teaching them and modeling this, but then allowing them to use it themselves and work through things. Because I teach 12-year-olds, I teach 6th grade, so I don't totally relate it to your son and his swim story, which was awesome. And so no, it was great. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. It was awesome.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. That's great.
I love it. So I figured, and Margaret, if you have any objections, let me know, but I know we're past time, but anyone that does have any last questions, I have unmuted everybody. If you do want to shout out a question, feel free to do so via the microphone.
Great, thank you, Mia. And I just, Gracie says she's always looking for tools for her students. And Mia can add this link when she sends out the recording and the slides, but the University of Pennsylvania Masters in Applied Positive Psychology, where I graduated from, we've been hosting daily since this, COVID-19 shelter in place started, daily strategies to thrive webinars, and they're about 30 to 45 minutes long. They're all hosted by a MAP grad, and many of them are geared to children and students, because there's quite a few educators that have gone through the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology at Penn. So that's another resource that you could check out. Mia, we can put that link in.
Definitely.
And they've all been recorded. So there's live ones as well as previous ones that started last month. And you can listen to recordings too on a YouTube channel. Oh,
Super.
great, Seamus. I'm so happy you could join us as another certified practitioner.
Lovely, Margaret,
Thank
to see you. Yes, that was super, Terri. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you, Seamus. It's so nice meeting you. Happy anniversary to you. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you for coming to share a dose of positivity. This is great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That was wonderful.
And Salvador has come back. I think this is the 4th dose.
Is it
Yeah,
4th or
the
5th?
fourth.
He's up there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very useful, very useful. From Mexico.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Oh, hello.
Wow.
Yeah.
Salvador is in the Masters of Positive Leadership at the Universidad Tecmilenio, where I'm one of the professors. And Salvador, it's a year-long program, and we first met there just last month.
Yeah.
So really a great group of people.
A real pleasure. Thank you very much.
De nada. Okay, I think we're good.
I think so too.
So we'll sign off.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Happy
Thank you,
Friday.
everybody.
Have a great
Thank you,
evening.
Mia.
Happy
and
Friday.
thank you, Margaret.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Spread calmness
Enjoy.
and cheer. Take
Yeah.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.